Oh, this nigga Tayuya is still going at it. This nigga Tayuya is funny. Alright, let's see what they're talking about. Is this still the Ichibe thing? Oh my god, this is still the Ichibe thing. Let me see if I can find my conversation. Oh god, okay. You know what? Fuck it. We're gonna make this a 2 whole video thing. So guys, the conversation that I was going to do initially was the Hokages versus Ichibe. One smart Kuribo says the Hokages win. How's this fight going? I say the Hokage. What are their names again? Obviously joking and making fun of the fact that Ichibe will take away all their names, and you know. This is Shiki, but we're gonna call him Flints. He says, I see the argument, not gonna lie. How would this ability work against them? I say, I don't understand the question. Is there a reason it wouldn't work? Do they have some resistance I don't know about? He says, why do they need a name to function? So I already see what he's doing here, right? He's presuming that in Bleach, you have to have, he's presuming in Bleach, names have to have some type of meaning, or they have to have some type of power with you, to you, or over you. That's what he's presuming right now. And I see this, and I you know, I slip and weave and I duck and dodge. I says, who says you need it? It's not like you'll die without it. It's about what losing the name does to the individual. Now, this is a setup right here. This is a setup because I know already where he's going, so I gave him a little bit of bait to see if he's going to bite. He says, what do you mean? I say Ichibe's ability to take one's name has a direct link to their power and even identity being taken. Notice how I phrased that. Ichibe's ability. Ichibe's ability is to take one's name. Notice how, anyways. I don't think he actually takes their identity, and even then, the name may not be linked to their power in Naruto, so I don't see how this ability would work. So, this is a heavy presumption that he's making, that all names in Bleach are linked to power. This is what he would be presuming right now. Let's read it again. He says, in Naruto, he says, I don't think he can actually take away their identity, and even then, the name may not be linked to their power in Naruto. So he's presuming that in Bleach, your name is linked to your power, right? What I should have did, but I didn't ask him to do this because I didn't really need to. What I should have did was ask him to prove that all names are linked to power. Oh, I think I know I didn't do that, but anyways, yeah. So I ask, do they have resistance to power nullification? He says, nah, true seeking orbs is power null, but even then, they don't get one shot by it because Jubito used it against them. I respond with, no one was completely destroyed by a TSO while he was using Shadow and Light Style. That's why they didn't get one shot. It's not because it hit them and didn't destroy them. Their bodies were never destroyed by the TSO, so therefore they didn't get one shot. It would have one shot anyone it completely destroyed. Then I say, 2, if they have no resistance to power nullification, how are they competing? He says the type of power null he has won't work against verses that don't have concepts, unless you're saying he power nulls through some other methods. Now that's a weird way to phrase it, and once again, this is how you can tell you're talking to a younger person, because he's using and saying things that don't necessarily line up logically with the whole order of the conversation. And I know you're gonna see this. This isn't to call you out, but you do this a lot. You'll say things that don't make, it doesn't really fit the conversation. Saying that the verse doesn't have the concepts of names, are you serious? And I pretty much say as much. So the concept of names doesn't exist in Naruto. He actually says no. I then say, oh, so the verse is filled with no named fathers. Is this correct? I should have said, is this correct? He says, a name means nothing in Naruto is what I'm saying. Alright, a name means nothing in Naruto is what I'm saying. Cool, let's accept that for now. I say, when Ichibe enters the conversation, it certainly does. When Ichibe is concerned, a name means everything. A name means everything when Ichibe is concerned. And then I make a joke, and no, that's not true. Every village united under the threat of the name Mata Uchiha. You thinking no name's making that happen? Obviously a joke. He says his name isn't doing anything. Names are references, but that's it. Madara's power and actions are not based off his name. Well, power anyway. By the way, certain versus concepts may not be real or responsible for things existing, so they don't need them to function. He said, certain versus concepts may not be real or responsible for things existing, so they don't need them to function. So it sounds like he's saying that names in and of themselves are only responsible in a concept because of Ichibe. That's it. That's what it sounds like he's saying. And I say I'm failing to see how it wouldn't work. When Ichibe's ability is used, it takes away your power through the medium of your name/identity. That's him imposing his power over you. And you already admitted they have no resistance to power nullification. It doesn't matter if they think names equal power or not. And it doesn't matter if he thinks names equal power or not. That's Ichibe's God-given ability. And when I say God-given, I really mean Ryo, because Ryo named Ichibe Monica Osha, but that's for a whole nother conversation. So he says, why would power be in their name or identity? Now, he's not listening. I never said power was in the name or identity. What I said was Ichibe's power is to take away that power via your name, through the medium of you, or your identity, my fault. Yeah. So, yeah, why would power be in their name or identity? Chakra is distinct from that, and not only that, I already said names or concepts aren't needed for things to function, so they don't rely on concepts. So when he's saying they don't rely on concepts, hold up, let me find the actual thing first. I don't know why I did that. Okay, why would power be in their name or identity? So yeah, he's not understanding what I'm saying, I don't think. It's not that the power is in their names or in their identity. That's not the case. When Ichibe enters the conversation and he puts his ink on you, he takes away your name and then there goes your power. It's not that your power lies in your name. That's just the medium through which his power activates. Chakra is distinct from that, and not only that, I already said names or concepts aren't needed for things to function, so they don't rely on concepts. I respond, it's not unless Ichibe's involved. Again, once he enters the conversation, names/words have power. Power that he can strip from you if his ink covers it. Like I said, he is imposing his power over you. It doesn't matter if they think names have power or the series doesn't follow that idea. And we know this is true because Ichibe can take away the power of an arm. An arm isn't something Ichibe named. An arm isn't something Ichibe created. An arm isn't even a name, right? And I say this in another conversation, an arm technically, like if we're being technical, because we have to identify things, arm would be a name, but it's not a standard name of John, like John or Joe or Ichibe or Flint, right? It's not a name in the context of what we're talking about. So Ichibe can affect things he's named and he hasn't named, and power is not linked to names unless Ichibe is involved. This is a very silly conversation. But he doesn't get it. Let me read it back because he doesn't understand it. It's not unless Ichibe is involved. Once he enters the conversation, names/words have power. Power that he can strip from you if his ink covers it. I think that's very clear. Like I said, he is imposing his power over you. I don't know if he knows what that word means. He is imposing his power over you. It doesn't matter if they think names have power or the series doesn't follow that idea. To him, that makes no sense. That's like me saying I can apply a property to something that lacks it, which would be contradictory. No, if you have the ability to apply that property, you can apply it. Why would that contradict anything? Then he says, he can't make concepts responsible for the function of things in Naruto. It's not tied to their existence in any way. Okay, cool. I say I disagree with you thinking words don't have power. And then I say, but if you have that, I pretty much just say what I said. If you have that power, why couldn't you do that? And you're making it seem like he's affecting something they don't already have. FYI, they have names, which means they have the concept of name. They have the concept of names because they identify things. So They have names, and Ichibe, who presides over names, imposes his power over people with names. That's literally how it works, and he does it through the medium of his ink. There would have to be something governing those properties, which you can't prove their worlds is derived from concepts. And there he goes again with like speaking or typing in ways that don't fully make sense to me, but I can pretty much navigate through it. But like that whole sentence didn't make sense. There would have to be something governing those properties, which you can't prove their worlds is derived from concepts. That makes no sense. That makes no sense. Is he saying concepts don't exist in their world? What is he saying? Someone put in the comments what the fuck he's trying to tell me. The names in question are just used to address someone. They don't denote them or their properties, and chakra is not intrinsically tied to their identity. That doesn't matter. None of that matters, and I never said it was. Never said it was. Ichibe's power is when he covers you with ink, he can power null you via that ink. It's less about the name. We saw him have control over an arm. He didn't name the arm. The arm doesn't have a name. It's like, what are you talking about? But anyways, he was talking about ruling over something. So let's read his thing in full context, right? He says there would have to be something governing those properties, because right now Ichibe is what governs names, kind of, right? He governs the phenomena of soul society's names. He doesn't govern. Well, he does actually govern all names. He actually does govern all names. He knows the true name. But so yeah, he says there would have to be something governing those properties, which you can't prove their worlds is derived from concepts. So I ask him, let's extrapolate this idea further to test your logic. I then ask him, would Ada's love charm work on the normal humans of Bleach? Because remember, he's saying there has to be a figure, someone governing that property. So in Ada's case, there is no figure or governor of love in Bleach. So therefore, if she came over to Bleach, her ability would not work. Just like how there's no figure of words in Naruto, and Ichibe's ability won't work, her ability wouldn't work in Bleach for the same reason. So he jumps in my conversation. I tell him I don't appreciate you jumping in my conversation. And the reason I said this, guys, is because he literally like started spam posting like 5 different of my replies. And I'm like, bro, I'm talking to one fucking person. I am one person. I don't have time to talk to all you guys. Like, I get that I'm becoming a very popular figure in the Twitter space thing, but if I'm not like talking to you directly, it's getting really annoying and rude when people just interrupt my personal conversation I'm having with someone. And this has happened several times. But yeah, that's that whole conversation, because I'll give this to Flint, 4 millionaire Shiki. I'll give this to him. He knows when to get the fuck out of there when dealing with me. Right? He knows when he's overstayed his welcome as far as the argument is concerned. Because I was about to back him up into a corner. Anyways, now let's go in me and one smart Kuribo's conversation. Shout out to one smart Kuribo too. I've never actually like heard his voice or spoken to him, but we've interacted pretty much a lot of times, and it's always peaceful. So far as I know, he's a cool guy. So I say the Hokage. What are their names again? He says in Bleach, names are linked to power, such as learning a Bankai's name. Renji is an example of someone who used Bankai while only knowing part of the name, so it was at a portion of its power. If you did equalize the powers, Ichibe isn't fast enough to ink them. I respond, yeah, that example applies to things Ichibe has an active role in creating. He didn't create the word arm, sword, or cross, all things that were affected by his ability. You don't need to equalize anything. He's shown dominion over things he's named and things he hasn't named. This is a fact. When Ichibe was fighting Yuha, arm, a word Ichibe did not create, right? A designation / specific name, right? Because when I say name for arm, I'm not trying to say that arm is a name, but it is a designation, and under the definition of names, arm would technically be a name. But yeah, Ichibe did not create the word arm or the name arm. He did not create the word sword. He did not create the word cross, aka medallion, but he was able to affect all these things. So no, you don't need the verse equalize for Ichibe's ability to work. If it worked on an arm, which he didn't create, it can work on anything else that he didn't name or create. So I said, yeah, you don't need to equalize anything. He's shown dominion over things he's named and things he hasn't named. What does Ichibe's ink do against the nameless technique that Teen Minato uses to fight the Nine Tails? Now, this is a funny question, and I like this question because it makes me think, right? Because here's the thing. Ichibe's thing is Monoko Osho, one who speaks the true name. So, ironically enough, he would actually know the name of Minato's technique, first off. But I didn't want to do all that. He would actually know the name of Minato's technique. But my response is the same thing it does to any other thing he named or hasn't named. Take away its power. And we've seen that example with Arm, something Ichibe did not name. He took away the Arm's power. So, take away its power or give it a new name, or give it a new, or in Minato's case, an actual name. But like I just said, Ichibe would really know the name. You know, an arm isn't actually an arm, it's just what we decide to call it. The word has no power, yet Ichibe can affect it because of his. Once my Kuribo says, how does it lose power when the technique doesn't have a name? He's missing something here, because I just told him an arm doesn't have a name, but the arm lost power, right? And if we're talking about Minato's technique, and you were to refer to the technique that doesn't have a name, you would call it what? Energy or chakra. So that's a designation, and that would be a name that he could take away the power of. So we're not going to play games here. So he says, how does it lose power when the technique doesn't have a name? Ichibe's power blacks out the target's existing name to remove their power. What he does against anything nameless is up in the air. There's also the issue of landing the ink in the first place. Now that little side comment right there, I'll tell y'all guys exactly what that is. That little side comment right there, someone only makes a comment like that when the initial argument isn't going as they planned. That's him trying to shift the argument to, can the ink touch them versus will it work on them in the first place? And this means he's actually worried that my argument is holding up because he realized arm isn't a name. That's what he probably realized in all this. He realized arm isn't a name and that Ichibe doesn't have to he realized arm isn't a name and that Ichibe can affect things that he's named or hasn't named or don't have a name at all. So that's what that is. And I say as much here. So I said, so are you saying it would work just on things that already have names? So this is so like when I do something like this, or if you see someone do something like this, don't fall for it. Do not fall for it, because if you concede to this in any way, shape, or form, I already bit your head off. So he says, under the interpretation you are using, it would have to be something that is named. Oof, got him. Why did I get him? Because the arm thing exists. Under the interpretation you're using, it would have to be something that is named. Even then, it also has to be something he can physically put his ink on. Look at him. He's trying to once again switch it back to, can the ink touch them? But that's a silly question, because if you're fighting people, that's a silly question because none of them, let's go back up real quick. None of them are long distance fighters except for Hashirama. He's going to get up close. He's going to get up close. He's definitely going to get up close. So the ink is going to get on them regardless. So like we saw Ichibe's fight when he's fighting, he's splashing ink around. So I say I can agree to the physical aspect, meaning that his ink has to be physically put on him, right? Then I ask him, is arm a name or just something we call the appendage? Kuribo says this feels more like a question for Kubo Clubhouse. He's covering part of a person but doesn't take their name until they are completely covered. Ink down the middle erases half the name without completely covering it at half. There's more rules to it than some people will accept. Again, he's only saying this to try and detract me from having the abilities work in the first place. The only reason you would go this hard or this in depth about it is because you wanted me to, if you want me to talk about something other than the conversation we're already having. But I'm seasoned. We're not going to fall for that. I say as much. Well, right now we're establishing if something needs a name to be affected by him. And I think we both know the word arm when referring to our limbs isn't a name. Yet Ichibe still affected them as well as a sword and a medallion. All things we can identify, but no names associated. Now, this is me. I'm going to tell you guys, because mind you guys, I know that Yuha's sword has a name, but I'm seeing what I can get away with from here, right? So, and you can call it shady if you want. You can call it disingenuous. You can call it like, what's the word? Ratting. or sneaky debate tactics. But listen, there's an old Roman proverb, or like, I think it's Greek. It goes, if he would be a fool, let him. That means whatever I'm doing and you don't catch, that's on you. That's essentially what that means. Whatever I'm doing and you don't catch, that's on you. This is the bait. Deal with it. He says, Yuha was about to tell us the name of the sword. Good job, Kuribo. And Ichibe gloated how he couldn't recall it. The medallion had Yamamoto's Bankai, which we have been over the name mechanics before. Now, this is him trying to be sneaky, right? The medallion had Yamamoto's Bankai, so he's associating the Bankai in the medallion with a name. That's what he would be linking it to. I say, right. The medallion lost all of its functioning power as well as the Zanpakuto. Yuha's named sword lost all of its power and Ichibe affected his arms. So he's demonstrated the ability to affect named and non-named things. What more do you want from him? So yeah, to quickly clarify, what he was doing with the whole medallion thing, which it really didn't matter to me because I didn't really need to push back on it too much. He was saying since the medallion had Yamamoto's Bankai, that was already a named thing. But that wouldn't be true. The thing first would be the medallion itself, and then Yamamoto's Bankai would subsequently be affected by the ink covering that. So yeah, the medallion lost all of its functioning power as well as the Zanpakuto. It's not a at the same time thing. It's not a mutually inclusive thing. One happened first, then the other has to happen because they're two separate things. So yeah. He's affected unnamed things and things he hasn't named. What more do you want from him? From the way Ichibe described it, his ability considers arm a name, even going so far as to consider it separate from the main body. All right. So this is the time where, and I'll put the definition up here, right? But yeah, I'll say as much. If we're being technical, arm qualifies as a name because it's a distinct designation for a thing. That's the actual definition of name. Right? And by that definition, everything has a name. Water bottle is a name. Light post is a name. Microphone is a name. Why? Because these are distinct designations for things. I then say, however, in the context of identity, like the name of a person or a car, arm isn't a name in the same way, yet Ichibe could still affect it. He says, so how does it work against things without a distinct designation? So here's the thing. We as humans do our best to identify everything we can identify so we don't have a problem with not being able to identify something. Nearly everything in the world that you can see has a distinct designation, and if it doesn't, you can literally give it one by making it up. Like names, first off, words are made up. Words are not real. They do not physically exist. We as people just decided to start using them to make sense of the world around us. And I tell him a famous quote from someone I admire. I say words are our GPS to reality. Everything has a designation, even if it's quote unquote wrong or incorrect. Now, why did I say this? Because you can go around the world and you can say, oh, look, that's a hockey puck. No, that's a hockey puck in America. In China, it's called something else, right? In Bleach, Grammy's like, I turn her bones into cookies. Kenpachi's like, what the fuck's a cookie? Grammy's like, I should have said Rakugan or something. So that's why I said wrong or incorrect. It still has a designation. It really doesn't matter what it is. The fact that it has a designation qualifies it to be a name. Then I say, in the context we're using name, arm is something nameless. It's only a name if you're being super technical, but that applies to anything we can observe and put words to. Now, my conversation with Kuribo ends here, just like it does for everyone else who really can't get one over on me because I know what the fuck I'm talking about. So yeah, that's Ichibe versus the 4 black ants. I think that's what we're going to title this. Ichibe versus the 4 black ants. Now, let's see what else other people have to say. I'm going to call you Zephus, because I don't know how to say the X word. So it's going to be maybe Ephus. No, I'm going to go with Zephus. So he says Hokages don't even stand a fraction of a chance. They literally couldn't hurt him, and they wouldn't even exist when he is done. They would be black ant or something. No diff, no concept diff. Even for Ichibe victory. One Smart Kuribo says, Reaper Death Seal, 8 Trigram Seal, Knockout Pollen, simply outscaling him with their AP and speed. Ichibe lacks the speed scaling to compete. Now, see, this right here is the conversation he was trying to bait me to go on, speed and AP conversation. But the issue is, once I lock down that his ability works, first of all, I don't have to do all that other stuff after. Getting the ability to work is more important than the speed and the AP conversation. So let's analyze these real quick. So we have the Reaper Death Seal, right? Let's say that's used on Ichibe. What would it do to Ichibe, who was already a soul? Would it like just try and drag him to its stomach? Because it's not taking out Ichibe's soul. Ichibe's a soul itself. Like, how would that interact? And then we already know that since in Naruto, you're 50% spiritual energy and 50% physical energy, you're already coming into a deficit if this is going to be a pure battle of spirit energy. Mind you guys, Ichigo had spirit energy enough to affect the world after he came back from Soul Society. This is Ichibe we're talking about. So no one on this list has more spiritual power than him, number one. And this is if we were to convert all of their energy into spiritual energy anyway. None of them would have more than him, number one. And then number two, like I said, everyone in Naruto is coming in at a deficit because half of your energy is physical energy and not spiritual energy. So why would a spiritual technique from a fake Reaper work on Ichibe? Ichibe would change his goddamn name too. He would name him Fourth Seat Shinigami Reaper Death Seal. He would name him Fourth Sheep Death Seal. That's what he would name him. Then we have the 8 Trigram Seal. Did he use that on the Nine Tails? I think he might have used that one on the Nine Tails. Here's the thing with like arguing ceilings, right? We don't know how potent it is. We know it's half of the Nine Tails chakra, but chakra itself isn't AP. That's not to say that chakra doesn't carry an energy value, right? But chakra in and of itself isn't AP. Then we have Knockout Pollen from Hashirama. Ichibe can fly, number one. And then number two, how potent is the Knockout Pollen? Because if we're just talking about like poisons and stuff like that, the higher your spiritual energy, the more you can negate things like poison and things that affect your senses or whatever like that. Then he says, or simply outscaling him with their AP and speed. Okay, let's do this. The only person with good AP here is Hashirama when he's using his full wood golem, wood dragon, and his 100 hand cannon thing. That's the only person with good AP here. None of these other guys have good AP. You guys already know how I feel about Naruto. They do not scale to their ninjutsus. So the only one with good AP is him while he's using his best jutsus. Let's talk about speed. Ichibe's 4,000 kilometers in a single panel is more impressive than anything any of them have ever displayed. Outside of Minato's teleportation, which would help but not win him the fight, none of them have anything they can talk about. I mean, of course the second can teleport too, but this isn't speed, this is teleportation. Hiruzen is like kind of fodder, honestly. He's not doing anything. With lightning style, fire style, water style, and whatchamacallit. All he can do is all elements. That stuff's going to be either blocked by Kido, dodged. Ichibe can fly. There's not much he can do. There's not much the second can do, but at least he can teleport. So speed and AP is not a thing here. And y'all got, you like, Naruto fans, I'm really not downplaying. I'm really not. Right? I'm really not downplaying. What the fuck is Minato going to do? Hit him with a Senga? What the fuck is that going to do? Not a damn thing. You know why? Naruto's base for Senga couldn't even... Oh, no, I'm sorry. Naruto's base for Senga made Obito bleed. So that should already tell you you don't scale to your energy. You would have to scale up to what Ichibe can endure to hurt him. And the only person that can output that much force is Hashirama. You can't do it second, you can't do it third, and you can't do it fourth. And it goes in that order. So that's the conversation. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. stay on the lookout for my, actually, I don't know what video I have in the works next. We got